Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Living on Lemonade podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lauren. Happy Monday. It is podcast day, and I'm just recording the episode for today. This past weekend was my birthday, and I was kind of pressuring myself a little bit to record beforehand, but then I kind of thought, well, maybe I'll have some good nuggets from the weekend that I want to share in a more timely manner that's very right after the weekend instead of recording for next week. So here we are on recording day. So if you've been patiently or impatiently waiting for this episode, thank you for your patience. Um, yeah, so my birthday was this past Friday, Friday the 13th, which I was a little bit worried about because I've had a couple dumpster fire Friday the 13th birthdays. But we won't go into that. And this year, our boat club had planned a boat weekend just kind of down the river from us. So I was like, hey, let's just go. Let's go hang out with them. Who cares if it's my birthday? Yeah, so we headed out after noon. I came off of nights that morning. I took my second night off. We headed down the river, and it was just a really kind of relaxing, nice weekend. I didn't advertise my birthday. Now, Eric did spoil me, of course, and he even bought all the stuff to tablecloths and stuff to celebrate, but I just really wasn't feeling it. And I think where I want to go with this episode is just to be really honest. And I think I've kind of reflected on birthdays in past episodes, or at least last year. But this one, I'll be honest. I think I don't know if it'll be forever, but I think probably every birthday is going to it's going to have that what's the word I want to use? It's just there's two spectrums of emotions. And truly, it's been that way since my 13th birthday because that was just shortly after Nicole died. And it was the first birthday without her, right? She was born the day after me. We were twin souls in so many ways. She was like my angel bestie. And so ever since then, birthdays have been a little tricky, emotionally sometimes, because as much as it's a reflection and a celebration of another trip around the sun and an opportunity to look back and see all that's happened in the last year is kind of I think we put a lot of weight on the calendar year being a way of new beginnings, but our birthday can be the same, right? Because it's another year that we've been alive. We can do it in a million different ways, but it's just another one. But I do find myself reflecting on the last year and all the things that I've done and all the time I spent with others and all of that. And then on the second hand, there's a bit of a weight to it because it's another age that Nicole will never have the opportunity to be here. And it's just a duality, I guess is the word I was looking for earlier. And being able to sit with both, it's really, if you understand it, you get it. It can be kind of hard to describe if you haven't, but I think eventually everyone kind of feels that duality of there's joy, but there's also grief. And I'm really not here anymore for the toxic positivity of just smile through it. I think that I think we just need to just allow our feelings. So being fully vulnerable on our way down the river on our boat, um, I had a couple moments thinking about my dad, and I had thought about bringing a couple of the birthday cards that he had given me in previous years because the last couple of years I've pulled them out on my birthday to read them as if it's like from him because they're so beautiful and they're so heartfelt and it just feels like a heart hug for me. But I was kind of with being in my work rotation and all the things, I had other things that I was focusing on and I didn't end up easily grabbing the cards, so I might pull them out this week and it can be you can pull them out anytime, right? But I found myself thinking about my birthday as all of the beautiful messages that have come in, which I still need to read through them and respond to everyone. And um so there's that like overwhelming gratitude and bliss, joy, all the words that kind of describe that of like the people that are taking time out of their day to wish me a happy birthday and reaching out to me and just sending me love. And then as I'm feeling that gratitude at the same time, I'm thinking about the people that I would love to hear from who I don't get to hear from anymore. My Aunt Shirley's another one, my auntie, because she was always the first one to send you a birthday card. Like, guaranteed, she'd be the first one you'd get. She sent them out super early. She was always the first card you would get. And yes, it's those little things that you don't really think about too much until you don't get to experience it anymore. So this is the second birthday I've had that um I haven't had the opportunity to get a card from her. So it was like you just take those moments and I just allowed myself to grieve it. I'm allowed to feel sad for that. So I did find myself having a few moments of just having an emotional release, having a bit of a cry by myself, and while also feeling the full spectrum of like gratitude and just uh I can't even think of the right word right now, but just grounded peace and yeah, just love, I guess. And yeah, I wanted to address that because I think there's just a lot of maybe I don't know if pressure is the right word, but expectation to really just focus on the good things. And while that's super, super important, gratitude is such a beautiful, beautiful practice that will change your life. And actually, speaking of gratitude, I'm reading this book right now called The Magic, and it's all these gratitude practices. It's over 28 days. Now, I did miss a couple days because I was just schedule, like with us being away and just altered schedule and really interacting with people and doing meals and stuff together. I didn't make time for those things. But I know that now that I'm kind of back home, it's back into that prioritizing. And while gratitude is super important, it'll bring magic to your life and enrichment and all of the things. I also think it's important to honor and be able to sit with those feelings that are heavier. I truly believe that emotions are meant to be felt and processed and released. And when the things bubble up that we don't think about maybe every day, but they do come up on, a day that's supposed to be celebration, it's our birthday, whatnot. I think it's still so important to honor those moments and have that release, have that cry, have those tears running down your face if you need to. And because it reminds us of it reminds us of the love still, right? And the love that we miss. I miss feeling loved from my aunt by receiving that card in the mail. I miss getting a card from my dad. I miss getting a text or a phone call from my dad. I miss hearing his voice wishing me a happy birthday. I miss being able to spend time with him, and that's okay. So these things can pop up on those days that otherwise might be spent in, full joy and celebration. We can have both. We get to have both. Now, the last couple years, really since my dad passed and losing my aunt so close too, I just, I'm not, I'm simply not the same as who I was. And I find myself just longing, I think, for those quieter moments, more low key, not really wanting to be the center of attention. Now, don't get me wrong, there was a time, and there's nothing wrong with it. There was a time that I definitely like, yeah, let's go celebrate, blah, 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 this and that. And maybe that'll be a part of my future, but I am also honoring this present time of just still processing things from the last couple years and just from that really short time period, those few months, right? That had such an impact on my life, and I'm still working through parts of it while also just trying to like embrace this current chapter of life and be okay with it and have dreams for the future and moving along as best I can and carrying the love that I have for these people. Um, where was I going with that? It's funny how we sometimes get on those tangents, right? Um, but wanting a quieter birthday. So I actually like I asked Eric, said to Eric, because we went out for dinner, some of our boat friends that we actually don't know super well, but they invited us to go for dinner with them. So I quickly like changed, put a little mascara on and kind of got dressed up, put my favorite earrings and necklace and bracelet on, and went out for dinner with them. And they kind of commented like, "Oh, you're really dressed up." And I just didn't really say anything. And then later on, he said, like, "I got you a cake. You know, do you want people to know?" And I was kind of like, you know what? I don't really want to this time. And, knowing me, and he honored that, of course. And we just kept it low key. And that's kind of how I needed it this year. And what we ended up doing we had some like late night cake. One of our friends was on the boat, and he figured it out. He actually accidentally saw it on Facebook. So then he kind of brought it up later quietly because he's like, "Why haven't you said anything?" Anyway, I was like, I'm not in the mood tonight. So we kind of celebrated later on. Just he was sitting with us. We brought out the cake. And then we had, of course, leftover cake because we only had a little bit. And when we had our big meal the next day, we're just like, oh, we'll bring the cake and share it with everyone. They don't even need to know it was for a birthday, right? And then Saturday, spent the day thinking about Nicole and kind of celebrating her. And oftentimes I find myself defaulting if there's like multiple things going on. I find that I would rather celebrate my birthday on Nicole's, and that for some reason that just kind of brings me peace. Um, yeah, I like to focus my attention more on celebrating and honoring her and doing it jointly that way especially if I'm hanging out with her parents. So um these are just ways that I've kind of coped with the dynamic of our birthdays. So I don't know if that's helpful if you have something similar, but sometimes just kind of like shifting the attention a little bit, but still being able to sit in that joy too. Now, Friday night, there's another thing I wanted to say that was really like beautiful for me. We were enjoying some outdoor music and I needed to kind of stretch my legs. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna walk around kind of this courtyard area, but then there's a few shops. So I just wanted to peek in the windows because then the next day we would walk into the town and check out the stores. Because last time we were there last year, I think most of the stores were closed by the time we got there. So this time it's like, okay, what did I miss out on last year? Anyway, I ended up being really drawn to this one store. Like, I was like, I want to go in it right now. And it was this gallery, and it had a bunch of prints. Like, this artist painted and drew freighters, like lake freighters and um, all kinds of different ships and stuff. It was really cool. And I was like, I can't wait to go in there. So the next day was pretty much it was the main store we went into. I popped my head into a couple more, but this was the one we spent our time in. And as it turns out, the woman running the shop is the daughter of the artist. Now her father has passed away. He passed away, I think she said 6 years ago. And she's talking about these different things. And then at one point I was kind of like, wait a second. 'Cause she mentioned a coloring book. And I was like, wait, do you have a copy of it? Like, can I see the cover? Because my dad had given me a copy of this ship freighter coloring book a few years ago, and the artist had signed it. Anyway, she finds it in the back room, pulls it out. It is that coloring book. So I immediately like, because the whole time we're in there, and even the night before, it made me think about my dad so much. Like I was just like, oh, I want to tell dad about this. He would love this shop. Like I would love to go in there with him, or just tell him about the experience that I knew I was going to have, and just seeing the art and once the store was open and stuff, and talking to the shop owner. And when she pulled out this coloring book, I was just like, oh my gosh. And it's interesting because that shop had been open 3 years, and I do not have any recollection of like noticing it last year. You think I would because I'm interested in freighters and stuff with the work that I do, but I I don't remember it. Like it was like as if it was a brand new store and I just never noticed it. And then on my birthday weekend, on my birthday, I take this walk and I am drawn to this store. And then the next day we meet the daughter of the artist. And then as it turns out, we have the coloring book. It's like in amazing shape, hasn't been colored in. And also the artist wrote a few books, and we have an original copy of one of the books, and it was signed. And then when I asked my mom about it, she said that she bought them both in Amherstburg for him for birthdays or whatnot. And I just thought that was so cool. And it felt like a connection to my dad. It felt like a heart hug. It felt like a little bit of a gift from him to say, like, I'm still with you. Here's this cool thing. Go check it out tomorrow. And you're gonna love it. And I know you're gonna want to like tell me about it, but I'm right here with you this whole time. So it, yeah, and that's with my own belief system, right? But it just felt like it felt like a gift from him. And he was very sentimental. He gave me things of his own for gifts for my birthday, and I love them more than anything he could have bought in a store. And it just felt like something he still continues to give these little nuggets. It's like a treasure hunt of these things that I discover along the path, and sometimes the timeliness is just like you can't make it up. So I'm still in awe. I'm still processing the weekend and feeling the feels. It still feels raw. It still feels like I have like a big cry that needs to come out. Perhaps I'll watch a movie that I know will just open the floodgates and just let the rest of it out. Because I don't know if you've ever felt this, but sometimes I just feel like the big cry is just sitting on my chest, on my heart, and it's like heavy and it's just ready to be released. And those are the times when I start to realize like, yeah, I haven't had a good cry in a while. Just gonna watch a sad movie and let it out. And my eyes might be red and puffy, and I might have a wake up the next morning with a bit of a headache, but I can feel that like energetic release of emotion. And it's always so good. And I notice one other thing, if this occurs to you, or maybe it brings some awareness to you about when I start to come into the awareness that I need to have a good cry, one of the things that I pick up on, aside from the actual like kind of physical things that I feel like that bit of weight on my chest, is I'm a little bit more irritable. Like I don't have as much patience. I get a little irritable, and then that's one of my cues to be like, hey, what's going on deeper here? And sometimes it's like, I haven't had a cry in a while, and I just kind of like feel it. So I don't know. Hopefully that helps someone if you kind of feel that way too, or it will bring you into awareness if you're not if you haven't noticed that yet about yourself, but then you start to. It's really helpful. And then just find a way to have a good release. Maybe you've got anger, you need to punch a pillow and just scream and whatever you need to do, but it's so important to just feel the feelings. Allow yourself. Don't put a label on it. Who cares if it's your birthday? Who cares if it's like whatever day it is? If you're feeling the feels, just allow them to be. Let the tears flow. Have those heavy heaves of emotion. I had some deep heaves from, when you feel it like from the pit of your stomach, you have that grief that's just like there, and you feel it in your throat, and you feel it come up, and you just have those like body heaves, like your body shakes when you're just crying it out. And sometimes the cries are so deep it's silent, or you don't breathe for a few seconds because you're just like expelling all of this you know misplaced or displaced love that for that person that you can't share it with in the physical anymore. Anywho, I hope that was helpful. I hope there's a nugget in there for you. And the other thing I was thinking about before I started hitting record that I was kind of mentioned at the beginning was we can choose any part of the year to have that reflection. We can also choose any part of the year if there's something that we want to do, if our soul's called to something, or there's a pattern that we want to break. You can choose any day to do it. Your birthday could be that day because it's like another trip around the sun. You want to start with a bit of a clean slate, or just shifting into whatever's next for you. Or it could be just like a random Tuesday. If you feel the need to release something, move in a different direction, let that be the perfect time to start that new chapter. And whatever needs to be let go in order to do it, just let it go. Be present with it, honor it, know that it's there for in your best, for your favor, in your favor. And it's going to help you move past whatever you need to move past and into wherever you need to go next. Okay, friends, I'm going to end it here. I'll talk to you soon. If you're listening to this shortly when I post it, this Thursday is our monthly class in the Living on Lemonade community. And the topic is water. So I'm going to be chatting about water, and I think it's going to be a goodie. So if you want to tune in live, otherwise it'll be a future podcast episode. Yeah. So I hope everyone's doing well. I'm sending you a heart hug if you need it. Hope you feel it from me. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye everyone.